Ozzy Osbourne has passed away. I literally just found out, and I am very compelled to make this video now. When I heard the news, I sort of sat in silence for a moment, and then I pressed play. Mr. Crowley. Mr. Crowley. Bark at the Moon. No More Tears. No More Tears. Crazy Train. Crazy Train. Perry Mason. Revelation. Fairies Wear Boots. War Pigs. Witches at Black Masses. Paranoid. After listening to a bunch of jams, I watched what I had already intended to make a video about and talk about today, which is the last Black Sabbath show, Back to the Beginning, the farewell show that they did a couple weeks ago. Come on, Black Sabbath playing their farewell gig in Birmingham, their hometown, in front of all of rock's royalty. Of course I'm going to talk about that, I just haven't gotten around to it for some reason. And, you know, I have a really compelling reason to kick my butt into gear and just talk about this whole show. And of course, Ozzy Osbourne. What can I say about this guy? When I was a kid, I had this worn out tape of Blizzard of Oz, and I would fall asleep every night. This is like 10, 12 years old. I didn't even play guitar yet. And I would just be listening to these tapes over and over and rewinding them. And you had to hit the button to rewind the tape. You never got exactly to where you wanted to, but I got pretty good. I got to be within a second or two of getting to right before the guitar solo, whether it was Randy Rhoads or Zakk Wylde or Jake E. Lee or somebody else. Ozzy Osbourne was just the bringer together of guitar heroes of mine. No matter what licks or riffs were coming out, they were always satisfying to me, and Ozzy was always the front man, you know, leading the charge. He was the Prince of Darkness, that was his moniker, but to me he was a metal general assembling super soldier guitar gods to beckon at his will, and I am his faithful minion, I suppose. So I love Ozzy Osbourne, rest in peace, and I want to talk about this show now. I'm gonna keep it light too. You know, Ozzy passed away, that's really sad, but that dude partied. And you like to have fun, so we're gonna have a little fun, okay? So if you're a guitar nerd, this was sort of like your version of Woodstock, I would say, the closest thing that I can think of. Tom Morello of Rage Against the Machine, Audioslave, and many other musical collaborations, an incredible guitar player and innovator in our generation and beyond. This guy was the musical director for the entire show, and it wasn't just by name. He really put together and curated the set list, got the musicians and the bands formulated, and, you know, had a lot to do with the success of this show.
And a guy called Tom Morello, who organized all the bands.
Now, Nuno Bettin of Extreme, and, you know, probably one of the most well-liked guitar players in our community these days. He's really had a resurgence if he was ever unsurging. Anyway, Nuno Bettin, he's like the multitasking guitar hero of the night. He played on a lot of the supergroup collaborations like Bark at the Moon and Changes, and it was just awesome. He is the perfect person for that. The job of a guy like that is to really, when a lot of musicians are coming in with absolutely no idea what they're gonna play or how they're gonna play it. I have no idea what the rehearsal schedules were like, but I have to think a lot of this was a lot of people coming and playing for the first time, maybe even in that exact moment. So props to Nuno for being Nuno. Jake E. Lee came on, speaking of those collaborations. There was a little bit of controversy about Jake E. Lee's just overall sound. Now to me, he was playing like Jake E. Lee. It was just like really tinny and sort of buried in the mix, and it wasn't really received very well out of all the hype. He also got on the stage late. I don't know what problem was there. And this is Jake E. Lee. Like, dude is known for having humongous tone, from Badlands to Bark at the Moon. His EQ is always tight and his phrasing is defined and articulate. It was just not the case here, so it was just kind of weird. Some people speculated he may be playing an amp sim instead of a huge wall of Marshalls or something. I don't know what it was. Anyone who's listening with their soul rather than their monitor speakers knew that Jake E. Lee was doing Jake E. Lee justice, even if the sound technician did not. One of my favorite performances was Gojira playing Under the Sun. these covers were so wide-ranging as far as trying to pay homage to totally making it their own. Gojira really blended some modern metal flair to this song with their twin guitar attack, and it was just epic. I loved it. Youngblood, if you haven't heard of this guy, he's sort of recently on my radar. Great singer, frontman. I'm not really sure what to make of him yet. Let me know in the comments what you think of this guy, but performed Changes. And there's a cool part of the show where Kathy Rhodes, who's Randy Rhodes' sister, came out and Tom Morello introduced her, and memories and respects to Randy Rhodes and what he meant to the night.
God bless you all, and never forget my brother Randy. Thank you.
Obviously, Ozzy's wife Sharon was in the crowd, and how much has that lady put up with over the years? Just from the reality show. I don't know if you guys ever watched that reality show, but it sort of feels like she's the super nice aunt who, even if you hadn't talked to her for 2 years, would help you out of any jam that you're in. That was another thing about this show. People were just crying openly in the crowd. It was almost like we knew that Ozzy was, not that he was gonna pass away so soon after the show, but it really had this finality to it. It was palpable, even through the live stream, and I was watching it after the live stream was concluded, so I felt the energy. I can only imagine what it was like to be there in the crowd. And it's just wild. I wonder what Ozzy was thinking.
And it's so, you've got no idea how I feel. Man.
His performances were epic. He sounds awesome. He doesn't sound like a guy who's about to die. I mean, just look at this set list real quick. Mastodon, Rival Sons, Anthrax, Hailstorm, Lamb of God, Supergroup A, David Draymond from Disturbed, Jack Black, Lizzie Hale, Nuno Bettin, Jakey Lee, David Ellefson. And then we move on to Alice in Chains, Gojira. There's a drum off between Chad Smith, Travis Barker, and Danny Carey. I'll let you decide who won that one. Another supergroup playing covers like Flying High Again with Chad Smith on drums and Tom Morello playing guitar. Vernon Reid popping in. And don't forget about Steven Tyler. Don't forget about Randy Sarzo. From there, we'll move on to Pantera. Of course, Zakk Wylde's playing with Pantera. Tool comes on after them, and then Slayer. You've heard of Guns N' Roses. How about Metallica? And then finally, Ozzy Osbourne comes on. Zakk Wylde taking the helm first, until ultimately the original Black Sabbath closed the night. I really think that there's never going to be another Ozzy. There is never going to be another show, at least in our lifetimes, of this magnitude. I really feel like there was a lot of important... I didn't even mention 10% of the artists who were in attendance who revere Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath and everything that they stand for. Now with Back to the Beginning, it seems like we've come full circle to something. A little piece of metal has died with Ozzy, but I really think that the echoes from that show and all the people blaring that they're Ozzy Osbourne right now, maybe not on their cassette tapes, but on their Bluetooth or their Spotify or their monitor speakers or off their deck in the middle of the woods, in the middle of the street, blare your Ozzy today, blare your Sabbath today, and remember one of the greatest to ever do it. That's what I'm gonna do. Rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne. Prince of Darkness! Yeah!